Hey everybody, I am Bon and Bao, and you are tuning into Positivity in Pivots, where we're showcasing incredible examples of business resilience during these times. This week, we are covering the entertainment and events industry, but no matter, as always, whatever industry you are in, we encourage you to submit your stories of positivity in pivots. Huge thank you to SAP and Quantum Metric for partnering on this, and really, today's show is very exciting. I've always wanted, my in-house band. So, so I wore my little white jacket. So I felt like I was doing my own little award show. So I'm going to share a little bit about my thoughts, and then we're going to jump right into the amazing guests that we have for tonight's episode. So our cultural obsession with Tiger King really has come to define the change in our entertainment consumption habits during this time period. And I guess that being confined to our homes has made it easier for us to really gain a sense of collectively being gripped by something so fascinating that it made the situation we found ourselves in feel actually normal. On a macro level, it is both good and different for the entertainment and the media, for the entertainment and events industry. So we ask ourselves what's different. I don't really think we need to ask, because cinema, live music, and events are all having to rethink their strategy. That's expected. Anywhere where the audiences have to gather en masse are bound to be hit hardest by the restrictions. In addition, this also has ripple effects. The cancellation of South by Southwest had impact on music, on film, on the creative industry, and not to mention spring breaks for geeks and nerds like myself. But with new challenges also comes new opportunities. The businesses who already had a strong digital strategy or provided their content through digital channels have found new audiences during this time and have found ways to express themselves in different means and to thrive. As expected, streaming services, OTT, video games, esports have all seen positive growth in very short periods of time since the outbreak. One of the biggest winners has been Netflix, who saw their share price rise higher than oil. Look, they've been saying it for years, but finally, rewatching The Wire is now the new oil. But that's the twist. With an 8-week break in production schedules and not a clear sign of when regular production will return, one has to think, where will new content come from? And even more interesting, what form will it look like? Or maybe I'll just have to finish Netflix. With a 36% increase in consumption during this lockdown household time period, where we're watching over 2.5 hours of content a week, which is double the average from this time last year, it also means that TV audiences are up, but despite that increase, TV advertising is down. My friends at the media agencies and media buyers are witnessing what we call the perfect storm, where supply has gone up, but the number of companies wanting to buy or willing to buy has gone down. Of course, this seems like a missed opportunity. Some companies, however, don't suffer from the same limitation. As mentioned, game publishers are still able to continue to develop games while working from home. In addition, we're seeing podcasters, creators of all types of digital content, social talent are very similarly and well placed. And this is what I'm finding most fascinating at this time, is really the emergence of new talents and new formats. Many felt that independent content creators would be the future of media, but suddenly we are seeing just how important their digital native sensibilities are to engaging with and captivating audiences. I'm sure we will admit that it's been fascinating to watch late night talk show hosts that first struggled to connect with their audiences without a laugh track or faced with challenges of having to produce their own video content without professional crews have quickly found ways to engage us in a way that feels very heartfelt. Let's take folks like Jimmy Fallon and his wife, who's now known as the director of photography, camera woman, and Key Grip 2, and along with his daughters as co-hosts, have found ways to let us into their homes that is so personal, I don't know if I ever want to see them in any other way. And then all of a sudden came along the addition of some production graphics, and you begin to realize that you do miss a certain level of quality. At the same time, talent who grew up producing content for YouTube seem right at home, and many are learning from them. Music artists have taken back control of their audiences by hosting their own live stream shows for fans. Athletes are performing sports challenges. And then you have the entire other side of the spectrum, where movie theaters are finding ways to bring back the beloved popcorn experience to all. Venues are repurposing ways to offer viewing to sports different ways. Sports are returning with cardboard cutouts of fans who pay to be there for the thrill of the game, even if it's only in paper form. Pop-ups are now pop-ins. Performances are now drive-ups. And virtual events have more attendees now than they could have had ever before. Long-term, I think what we're going to see is a creative renaissance thanks to COVID-19. Throughout history, artistic output has always been a way to respond to a crisis and to adversity. We may find that we are on the verge of a new golden era. Already, I'm seeing songwriter friends of mine use this time to recapture the raw emotion they felt during those early stages of their career. Just check out what Wyclef's Instagram stories look like now. He's more prolific than ever. And so I leave you with this, that perhaps we will see the entertainment industries birth their most powerful creative ideas ever. And that's something we can all positively look forward to. So today we have a great show. We're going to open up. Jasmine, are we actually live? I think we're having some technical difficulties. Adam. Okay, my fault, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, great. So there's my monologue, and let's jump right into the show. I'm going to open up right now with Richard, who is the SVP of Media and Entertainment Industries from. Oh, hi, Richard. How about I let you do the introduction of yourself? Why don't you explain yourself? Who are you, Richard?
Who am I today? So today I am the global lead for media and entertainment at SAP. We work with a lot of the media companies in the world across multiple segments. So we're at the epicenter of the whole coronavirus, what do we do now kind of conversation. So thank you for inviting me.
I'm excited to have you here. So let's just jump right in. We had a great conversation during our prep call. Why don't you just tell me a little bit about what's happening in the world of content, production limitations, supply chain issues, kind of consumption?
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on it in the intro a little bit too. I mean, we've gone from a world where we were dropping something in the region of like 500 scripted TV shows a year to zero production, right? Where the industry was spending $108 billion on content production last year to stop, full stop, right? And that's just one segment. So if you also, as you said, about the sports and live music, that's stopped as well. So you've kind of got this storm of pent-up demand, because as you said, more people are now watching Netflix than there were this time last year, against a supply that is adequate for now, but will become constrained as the virus moves forward. So what we are seeing is a number of different kind of pivots across different segments. So for example, obviously in the streaming world, we saw things like the delay of Peacock or the delay of HBO the streaming service, or the launch of those services without some of the key titles that they hoped to have finished. We're seeing across things like theme parks. Obviously, Disney Shanghai opened this week, so everybody's watching that with an interest. You're seeing Disney Florida and NBCU theme park down there in Orlando thinking of opening again in the middle of May. But we're really seeing that. We're also seeing in the music segment, as you said, no live performances. We're talking to some customers about how they virtualize the concert experience, and really kind of just this confluence of, as you said, a lot of supply and consumer demand against a constrained or soon to be constrained model. It remains to be seen. And I think the other sort of effect that's going on too is the economic situation, where you have really a looming threat to discretionary spend on media. So the consumers, right now have on average something like 2 to 3 streaming services. You'll see that contract to about 1.5. 37% of people surveyed by the Wall Street Journal recently said they would drop one or more of their streaming services if they lost their jobs. So it's a very interesting time. We kind of tend to look at it SAP into a respond, recover, and reimagine timeline. So we've been in the respond phase where the initial response was to cut back on cash flow, cut back on furlough people. Now we're in the sort of the recover, as you said, with Jimmy Fallon and his wife doing their broadcast from home, and that becoming the new norm. But we really think we're on the precipice of, to your point, not only individual content creators reinventing the industry, but also the larger players reinventing that industry, be it, and no disrespect to Jeff and folks, be it the reduction in Windows, the direct-to-consumer release of titles like Frozen or Trolls. We're seeing a period of time where those who are on top of their data, those who are on top of their insights, are going to make really significant decisions as we move forward into the next phase of reimagine here.
So that's kind of the entertainment side from a content perspective. Talk to us a little bit about the live side. Talk to us a little bit about sports. Like, is it a sustainable model to actually have a sporting event with no fans, or what do you see there?
I mean, if you ask Dana White at UFC, he would say yes, right? Because he just did it this past weekend. But I think if you look at, the English Premier League, if you look at La Liga and, the Bundesliga in Germany, I think that's going to be a tough sell. I mean, part of the theater of sports is the crowd, is the audience, is the crowd reaction. How do you recreate that just by having two teams in a closed dome? I mean, we have seen things, as you said earlier, about sports stars recreating the sporting experience online as an esport. So there was an MLB experiment the other week where they had two teams play each other through an esports. But I think that crowd is such an intrinsic part. And again, if you pivot to music, music without a live audience, I mean, Botticelli did it, but that was a unique experience. But without a live audience at a concert, rebroadcasting that is quite a flat experience. So I guess the jury is out on that. And I think it really depends on how long this lockdown and this social distancing continues as to what happens to those live events. But, it's not all lost. I mean, we've been working with a company called Now United that are basically a virtual band that do virtual concerts online and make money in different ways by selling, for example, the outfits that the stars are wearing and monetizing it through sponsorship and other ways. So the form will exist. Whether it exists in a live crowd shared kind of environment or a virtual shared environment is still, I think the jury's still out.
Right. Well, and what do you think about, we just saw in Germany, there was a live concert, but it was a drive-in. I mean, what do you think about those type of models?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I like to go to sit with other people, to enjoy the media. I like to see the reaction around me. Love my family, but we've been together very close. Extending that outside the home, maybe. I just don't think the amount of revenue will be there that is required to keep this industry at the level of production that it's been at in the last couple of years. I hope it's not too bleak a picture, because I do think there are, as you say, there are lights here, and we've seen hosted environments on Zoom with watch parties. Facebook is doing something for music where you can actually tip a musician who's playing on Facebook Live and generate revenue that way. So you will see these experiments pop up. But in the sense of the large scale ones, it just really depends on how long this lockdown goes on.
So let's talk, just last question. So what is sustainable? Because we talked about content production, and you basically said, look, you're putting an army of carpenters to build sets and, makeup and so what does sustainable content production look like? Is it reality TV that's offered in a different way, or what is it? What is it you think?
I think you have to look at the respond, recover, and reimagine phases, right? So in the recover phase, I think you will see more low scale. I mean, for example, Discovery TV are doing a lot of their cooking shows from the chef's own kitchen, and they're looking at that in terms of, wait, is this as good an experience at a much lower cost point? It costs about $300,000 to $500,000 an episode for that kind of TV. But I think you will see that. I think you will see more animation and esports and games where you can actually develop that remotely. But for the full-scale productions, until things like country bands or incubation periods of traveling to a different location are gone, I think you're going to see that much more on a smaller scale, without large groups of extras, with very socially distanced sets. Again, yet to be seen on how that works out in terms of production. But I do think that of all industries, this is the most creative industry on the planet, and they will find a way to continue to make good quality productions that bring in good quality revenue that delight customers. And I think we're excited to be part of that.
And Richard, we're excited to have you a part of that. And I want to leave on that note because I think that's really what, I want to talk about in today's show, which is ultimately, to your point, this is the most creative industry in the world. And the great news is that I believe, like you sounds like, or like you do, is that creativity will prevail and we will find new ways and models to entertain ourselves, be it in our car, be it at our homes, be it out 60 feet away from each other.
Correct.
All right, Richard, thank you so much. All right, everybody, I'm going to bring up a good friend, a colleague. I work with this man, so I feel like I know him very well. But once you get to know him, you're going to be as excited about what he does, what we do, as I am. So I'm just going to let you really tell us like who you are, what is Triller, how's your day?
Thank you, Bob. And thank you for having me. It's a great show, and hopefully, we can keep this going as people are bored at home, and we're actually making a ton of and very interesting content together. So I'll talk more about Triller, but my background, I've been a serial entrepreneur all my life. Been in technology for about 16 years. Done 3 different startups that all exited in one form or another. We had an IPO. We've done an acquisition, but the Triller journey started with me about 4 years ago now. And what we're really known for is now it's a little bit more defined as a marketplace, but Triller is the platform for short form entertainment that has a heavy emphasis on music, right? We're often compared to TikTok, which is another emerging platform that's also
we're not.
Never. But I mean, they are the 80 billion gorilla in the house, and for us, we've always had paved our own way in terms of our user growth, which has now surpassed 90 million users that have all been organic to Triller's growth. We never spent a single dime on marketing, and our differentiator and our forefront has always been around music, really working with the music talent, the music labels, the DSPs like Apple and Spotify to create an ecosystem where everyone really wins, right? Where if a user creates a user-generated video that has music and that goes viral, both the labels, the artists, all see the benefit of it at the end of the day. So that ecosystem has really allowed us to shine and allowed us to, continue to grow. And it's really brought us to a place where, every artist on the planet, well, most artists on the planet will know exactly who we are or have already worked with us. So very proud of that, and very proud of all the things and the teams that have come together to work on this passion. And given the situation in COVID, I don't think it's going to slow down anytime soon.
I think given the situation of how much you guys are a part of culture, and I think that from the comparison point of view, there is none, because you guys are where culture goes to break, where culture starts, where culture is made. But I think even I think that point that you made, which is really the interesting piece, which is you guys support the artists. And so, the artists get credit for their music, whether it's streams or monetization. And so just tell us, here you have musicians, they're in a really tough place because they can't tour. So they're, forget about money. They can't tour. So their music's not being heard. So they're not getting credit for it. It's not aimed towards the award shows and those things. So they're not climbing the charts that way. And then you do have the musicians who are the starving artists that also can't make money because that is their sole source of revenue. So how are you helping artists during this time period? Like, what are you doing to help help them stay connected to their fans and also just stay relevant and just support them in general?
Yeah, no, I think this is a really interesting period just in terms of the history of music. Some people have even compared this to the early 2000s when Napster was first created, right? Like, what this current COVID crisis does is actually accelerates the notion of live and digital entertainment, because you're right, like musicians are losing, we're not talking about just a few single millions of dollars, but tens of millions of dollars individually from not having to be able to perform. So they're looking for new and innovative ways. And we at Triller is really focused around how to help artists, right? So we've done several different, we call them experiments, but they're really test cases. One with live concerts, one with paid concerts for a small band, which, they have less than 60,000 followers on Instagram, but within a 3-week period, we were able to help them sell over 3,000 tickets at, $10 a pop, but still that helped the band make money for a live 40-second segment. And we're, basically replicating that model now with, one of the biggest acts on MGM, in Las Vegas. We're replicating that now with one of the biggest K-pop bands with 8 million followers worldwide. So those are the things that we're looking to help artists, basically try to recoup some of the dollars out there. But in terms of staying connected, I think more than ever now, the social element and the virality factor of a social network helps music, right? Like, a perfect example is this last Christmas, we helped Mariah Carey get to #1 with All I Want for Christmas, which, by the way, as soon as I say the song title, I'm sure it's in everyone's mind because you can hear it, what the song sounds like. But that song hit #1 for the first time in 25 years, thanks to our help, right? Because we really started promoting it. Lots and millions upon millions of videos were made to that song, and it started to grow virally in a way that it has never done before, and it was counted in a way that was never done before. So that's a perfect example of how that's changing in our digital age, and that's how we're helping the artists, especially emerging ones that are coming through and helping us work together in this environment.
Right. Now, a serious question. This is a reveal. I know that's the new merch, but what do you like better, this logo or? There we go. I should pull the camera down instead of me trying to step up. But anyway, there we go. Right. So, which one do you like better?
I'm gonna have to go with yours. That's much more limited. There's only a few of those lying around. So
yeah, well, I got the sweatpants to match. So just to that point. So I think it was interesting because you are not only the music platform, but you guys rely on also, you're a part of live music events. And so you guys were going to be a big part of Coachella this year. That didn't happen. And so what did you do to kind of help those artists that were supposed to be showcased there, that audience? Just tell us a little bit about I guess, Triller Fest.
Yeah, no, we were all super bummed about the Coachella being canceled. A lot of people put a lot of work into creating a really unique experience that, hopefully someday we'll all get to see again. But, right around the time when lockdown happened, the team came together and said, hey, what if we created a digital concert that was trying to, support donations for a good cause, but also B, give some of these artists an outlet to perform during that same weekend, which was April 10th. And originally we thought, okay, that'd be, as we're executing the idea, we thought maybe we get 25 artists at most. But what we ended up doing is we reached out to over 170 artists in our network, and we got back 125 responses to yes, including content that we were going to showcase as a live performance. We collected that together to create what is now called Triller Fest, a 3-day event. Is the largest digital event that's ever been done, with headliners like the Migos, Snoop Dogg, Marshmello, Pitbull, but also up-and-coming artists, right, like Ida and some of the older artists like Wycliffe, who really put on an amazing show, and we were able to reach way above our expectations. Was about 5 million unique eyeballs across the net. And that's something that we put together in a 3.5-week period, which definitely strained a lot of our team. But the results is in the pudding, which is the fans came together to watch things. We had a really amazing set for even Paris Hilton, who at one moment jumped into the live chat with everyone, started talking to everyone on the live chat. We had Shaquille O'Neal jump into the live chat to help his son when his set was on. So it was a really unique digital moment where everyone got to experience it together, and Triller couldn't be more than happy to be part of that and help facilitate that.
And I watched it, and what I thought was interesting was I was so worried, and I think this goes back to, I was so worried. What was the production gonna be? First of all, there's a lot of light bulbs and hearts jumping out here. So you are loved, and they think you're smart. It was interesting because, like I was saying earlier, I think it didn't really matter at the end of the day, truly the production. But so many of the creators, they were so comfortable just creating on their own, and so the quality of the content was, phenomenal. I think that also speaks to kind of what you guys have done as a platform in terms of creating a video editor that edits and creates highly engageable type content. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, like that's kind of like one of our mantras, is that we always want to create as many tools and licensing that allows creators to be themselves, to be as creative as possible, giving them tools that are either AI generated or, stop motion, like really, really like next level, like editing tools. And what we realize is that, this generation of creators are super creative. And I think the COVID situation took that even a step further, which is, you mentioned like the production of a live concert, but if you look at like, the production of all the shows that are live, right? Even like the shows like The Voice, which now basically looks like a Zoom call between Simon Cowell and some of his judges watching video. That production value versus a couple of 4 or 5 guys doing the same thing, like the difference isn't going to be that high anymore, right? We used to kind of look down on, as an industry, like the whole notion of user-generated video, right? Like someone who's in their living room with a giant camera talking or creating content. But because of the COVID situation, that quality is not much different than what you're going to get from an established 50-year-old, NBC-styled show. That's pretty much at the same now. So you're now coming out of that, forever change, because you're looking at an audience who really can't differentiate between something that was made in the user-generated world versus a professionally generated world. And as we at Triller provide more and more tools to creators that allow them to either get the crazy licensing costs down from music, or editing using expensive software that's not all automated, that user-generated content will continue to rise to eventually be not on par with what's out there already from a professional sense, but maybe exceeding it through creativity. So that's something that I think as an industry will never go back to the same. That's why a lot of us think that this is that Napster moment where we first heard about MP3 or Napster, you're just like, that's for college kids or whatever, right? But that forever changed entertainment. And I think we're at a moment now where that COVID and the rise of UGC content is forever going to change the entertainment world.
What is in your mind, what is the future? So you guys, I mean, in many respects, you guys represent the music industry on so many levels. All the artists come through you. You broke in, I think you were telling me 22, 25, double platinum albums, and, artists are found on you. So you guys really, what do you think the future, what is in the future of the music industry? So is touring coming back? What's that? Is there, we have a question here. Somebody saying that there's so much value in the behind the scenes. It's intimate. You get to meet the person. I will say one thing. That was watching Fallon. I like, as I said in the beginning, I like binge watched Fallon at home. I was like, oh, I hadn't seen this yet. Boom, boom. And what was interesting was he's like disheveled. The kids are climbing all over him. But then he cuts to Robert De Niro. Same thing. Or Alec Baldwin. Sorry. Kids are climbing all over him. And you realize we're all the same people. So I do think there's a lot of value in that personal nature. But still, performers are performers. And like I feel like the raw of the crowd, the yell of the, what happens?
Yeah, you can never replace the roar of the crowd, right? Like that human connection when your favorite song, which is like the most obscure song out of this band, comes on and you're like getting up and you're ready. Like that can't ever be replicated digitally, but a form of that will be, right? Whether it's a connection through digital Zoom or connection through other means. I mean, companies are now solving for that faster than ever, right? Because of the situation. But I think for us, as we are super close to the music side, our mission statement has always been, helping the next Justin Bieber be discovered on Triller, right? And that path has been there since day one for us in terms of how do we, elevate that, because how do we, that's ultimately going to be a more democratization of entertainment, especially around music. And as we go from super fans to truly really creative people. And I remember like this. I was actually talking to our chairman about this when Moby won a Grammy over Beyonce. Right. And I love Beyonce, not saying anything bad about the Queen, but Moby, is a producer of one, a songwriter of one, while Beyonce had probably 40 different producers on one song. I think you're going to see the rise of more and more artists like Moby, which will continue to innovate, be creative, and they're all looking for a medium where they can shine. And I think Triller's mission statements did help that, right? Like we're not always going to feature the top 10 like artists. We're going to find every week the ones that are emerging, like the story of Little Nas, right? Little Nas X is one of our perfect stories. Or Blueface with Tatiana. Like we knew some of these things were going to blow up long before anyone else did. So I think that for us will always be that digital forefront. And now we're looking at the rest of the world to elevate that even more with the tools that they're creating.
Right. I gotta move on, but I do have one question with kind of all of that. First of all, that you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen, more Moby, with that. So when I let up, I said, here you have, there's more viewership than ever, but less advertising. So I can tell you, every single brand we talk to, everybody is looking at how do we get in. Everybody needs to be in the streaming game now. So what do you recommend, and what advice do you have? How do they connect to culture? How do they,
Yeah, no, I think,
aside from just calling you. No,
aside from calling you. And
me.
Aside from that, I think, the advice, legitimate advice I have for a lot of brands is that, you're dealing with a generation like the Gen Zs, and the millennials are well beyond sort of in the older range, that are looking for authenticity, and they're looking for that, truth experience where it's not something that was paid or wasn't bargained for. So I think that's one of the things that Triller has always stood out among others, is that we never actually made anyone force them to do a Triller video. It's always been like, you want to make it, whether it's Kevin Hart to Offset to your niece, everyone made it on their own, and that organic feel has really driven the brand. And I think a lot of others, like Supreme, I don't think Supreme has ever done any type of advertising, like, yet they're one of the most sought after brands in the world because of that exclusivity and because of that authenticity. So I believe in that, as this generation, the Gen Zs gets older and older, brands are going to have either a really hard time reaching out to them because they're still thinking in a way of the old school way, or they're going to adopt quickly into reaching to them in a very authentic way, in a very real way. And I think those are the ones who are going to win in the long term.
Right. Well, there's a comment over here that said the easy answer is authenticity, and you ended on that note. And so I'm going to let this end on that note. Hey, Mike, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a friend. Hey, wow, you're up already. Hey, Manish, how are you, sir? I was going to say how much I admire you and what you've created and how good of a friend you are, but boom, you're here now. So why don't you just tell everybody, what is the Museum of Ice Cream?
Museum of Ice Cream is a place of joy and happiness where we bring, people in a space where you get to play and eat ice cream and swim in 100 million sprinkles. And now in our New York City flagship that just opened, go down a 3-story slide. And I hope all of you guys have been eating tons of ice cream the last 8 weeks. I know I've been even increasing my daily pint to like 2, but it's not a bad treat to keep us at home and cool.
So what I find when we talked, it was interesting to hear you talk about what it means to be running a physical events business today, and actually how much opportunity you saw. So what is it like running an experience business during kind of this time?
Well, I mean, it's been incredibly challenging. And I think that we, for a business that, we've seen 1.8 million visitors now through our doors since we've launched just a few years ago, and had just opened our New York City flagship. We're in the process of opening our first international location and a new location on the West Coast. And New York was just hitting its stride. We were 90 days into the museum, seeing record numbers in the museum. And frankly, it's a complicated operation. We have almost 100 guides, cleaners, security team that make our experience come to life. The experience in the Museum of Ice Cream is so dependent on that human interaction. And we always say, Monin, that the Museum of Ice Cream pre-COVID, we always say our biggest competition was Netflix, because we're thinking about how are people spending time in the real world, and how are we going to make connections if we're all digital. And in one way, Corona has been to us like awakening for us all, to say, like, is our devices, our mobile platforms, are they actually making us happy? Where are we going to go after when the world reopens to like find connection, to find joy? And it's been incredibly challenging, especially for all ticketed experiences where we had months of tickets sold. You have high fixed costs with rent. So it was frankly devastating, and it took even a couple weeks of mourning as entrepreneurs for us to like mourn the business that you built for 4 years, beyond the mourning of what's happening in the world, and then start to think about what is this experience on the way out, and immediately starting to think about like what is our purpose, what is our mission, how do we continue to bring joy to people in New York and San Francisco where we are in the near term, but then how do we get our doors open, create these intimate experiences that are lower touch than they were before.
Well, what do you do? Well, first of all, don't go on LinkedIn, because apparently you owe somebody ice cream, and I want you to stay safe during this time. But what does the business look like right now? Like, what have you kind of pivoted to and moved to?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of debate for a lot of offline businesses. Like, do you pivot into to digital experience? Do we create a 3D game? These are things that we had thought about before. And how active are you on social and creating content? And we certainly have decided just to create positive content. And for us, we focused on how we could give our ice cream and create joy in experiences. So we started to doing ice cream socials and delivery to hospitals in New York and San Francisco. We did actually a 2,000 person ice cream social. We actually brought out our ice cream truck that has sat dormant since last summer, and brought that up to Lenox Hill on the Upper East Side, and we're able to serve in 3 hours 2,000 people in a somewhat socially distanced way. And I think what we concluded was that at the end of the day, like, our core business is to create offline experiences that create joy, and there are elements of experience boxes that we're launching, ice cream that we will finally be able to ship direct to consumer. So maybe it's accelerating our thinking, but we weren't ready to say, hey, we're going to build a 3D world in the Museum of Ice Cream and create that within 30 days and put out a subpar product. It just continued. It sort of created some of the thinking in terms of the development that we were already thinking about doing.
But I think that's a huge lesson, which is, you guys are, in your core, you create experiences offline, and you guys have figured out how to extend that to create those same experiences offline, just maybe not in the environment that you guys started creating. And by the way, the Museum of Ice Cream, if I'm not wrong, the first one was really like a pop-up experiment. You guys didn't know what it was going to turn into, to the point where you had built it for a set period of time, and it lasted to the point where it was almost like falling apart, no?
Yeah, we had no idea. I mean, we built this in 2016, myself and Mary Alice. Mary Alice at the time was 24 years old. We were two entrepreneurs. I had not even left my job running an experiential tech space called Lightbox. And we thought we were going to be open for 30 days. We had no idea that there would be 5,000 people in line on the first day and that we'd sell out before we built a wall. And truly, the museum was falling apart. The sprinkle pool was like leaking into our office. We didn't have lights. And we decided to pack up our bags and really test the business. And the next year and a half was what we took a tech approach to the business, is that it was a beta test. Our first 1 million visitors were just experimenting with design, operations, tech, hospitality, and the complexity of building in this environment. to me, the saddest part about what's happening in the offline business is that there were already massive barriers for businesses like ourselves compared to what Amazon or tech companies can do. You can start a business and start a website in 24 hours, be live selling just the way we have been pivoting. But to get through the regulation, the barriers from landlords, from cities, from liquor licenses, all these things are stacked against entrepreneurs. And we're going to need a lot of change and a lot of support and a lot of governmental and business change for people to compete in the offline world. It's not just going to be a turn on post-corona. It's not just that the consumers coming back. In order for talent and smart people to come continue to build, and we think, which is so critical, to provide spaces in the world where people can actually physically connect. I don't think any of us want to live in a world where we're only digitally connected to each other. I think that goes against human nature. And hopefully, businesses like us survive, and not only survive, are able to grow and spread through to other cities and smaller cities all across this country, because otherwise we're going to see things like, we're in Soho on Broadway. I think we're going to have 50% of the businesses are going to be closed.
Right.
And the scary thing, we're talking about positivity, but American ingenuity and intuition is going to have to be coupled by different support, because frankly, offline businesses just won't be able to compete against this digital framework.
Right. And I also think, to your point, support and a real understanding of what reopening looks like, and consumer confidence. I mean, it's so intertwined. And so what does rebuild for offline businesses for you look like? Is that opening in a distance fashion? Is that, we had Richard talk about Disney World, and if you saw, or Disneyland in Shanghai, and I don't know if you saw the clip that was running on CNN, but it's really interesting to see what something like that, which, is somewhat similar, I guess. I don't want to, limit you by calling you Disney, but somewhat, it was just interesting. And I wonder what in your mind, what does reopening for you guys look like?
Yeah, it's a really amazing question, because the whole concept of Museum of Ice Cream, while we like to say it's a completely new format, it was taking from what was happening in entertainment and offline as it is, right? Which is, we wanted to build what we call socially squared, a space that is human social and could be amplified by social. And the human social element is what we're talking about, is why we built the experience with this format, a time-ticketed experience where you go through this journey in a linear fashion. And the reason our museum was built this way is because we were responding to our frustration with what we call passive entertainment. We don't want to sit at a concert and just look ahead. I want to be able to socialize. I don't want to go to a sporting game. I'd rather watch it at home where I can be social, I can talk, I can be safe. And this is the issue with the way that entertainment has been structured for years, whether it's theater, sports, all of these things are new movies are ultimately passive entertainment. And if we're going to be already passive watching our phones within an individual experience, we wanted to create a social space. And so the challenge in our industry was to create this format where you could actually create intimacy with the people you're with and with us as guides, people wearing all pink, for us to have these engagement elements, whether it's with ice cream. And so our experience is sort of uniquely designed to create intimacy. So in the museum previously, you were going in with groups of approximately 15 people. Now we will, actually have each individual group go in, whether you're 2 people or a single or a group of 10, you will go in with your group and be cadenced so that there's never more than 10 people in a room. But the challenging, so we're able to operationalize that, and there's a lot of changes. We have 250 line items, changes that have to go to the museum. We're changing different experiences. There's going to be a treasure map. There's different self-guided components. But the thing that we lose in some form is that ability for us to connect you with other strangers. And that was what we thought was really powerful. When we were able to have somebody come to the museum and they met another mom with kids and they became friends, or 2 single experiences, they come and they're end up traveling together through the museum. That experience creates loyalty forever. We've had 100 proposals, over 120 proposals of marriage in the museum. And is that experience of proposing in the museum going to be the same when you're just alone with us versus, so there's the benefits and the positives. The benefits are you're actually going to get the museum basically as a private experience with you and your friends. But the thing that hurts us is we have to find ways to make sure that the principle of the Museum of Ice Cream, which is about connection, using imagination for connection, is something that we're going to have to work a lot harder to deliver.
Right. And then I'm going to ask one last question, but you're doing so much that you're going to do in the world, during this time of rebuilding, which is exciting. So, for all those brand marketers who are out there listening, there's some interesting things, feel free to reach out to me or, hit Manish up on LinkedIn, but really interesting stuff. But what advice would you give to experience-based businesses right now?
I think that the two things is, one, on the ice cream side, is like the ice cream industry itself and the entertainment experience industry, we're huge, and we're hoping to really activate and rally around the country as we are reopening in July during National Ice Cream Day. So hopefully we'll be able to continue to serve. Our first week of the museum opening is going to be dedicated to first responders to create that joy, create an escape, which the museum has always been. In the terms of the advice, it's, you're welcome to give me as much advice as you guys can. So please communicate on LinkedIn or any other platform Manish missed. Sorry about that. But my advice is to keep going. In the 1920s, after the Great Depression, the movie industry was in the first phase in the black and white industry. Then it became multiplexes. In the 1930s, the movie industry was one of the largest industries in the country. And so we have an opportunity in entertainment and experiences actually to deliver something that people are desperately going to need. They're going to need to come back. We're going to want to be able to connect. We're going to want to we have all suffered tragedy. Like, let's not forget how much hardship. All of us know people who are suffering, who have lost people. And there is a real purpose to bring people back into our spaces. And so I do think there's an opportunity, like in the 1930s, like post the Great Depression, where experienced creators can provide a really valuable service that is going to be needed and could be a huge industry. So I want to rally our fellow creatives and experienced creators and brands to say, like, don't give up on the physical. Don't take the easy route out to just go and spend money in digital because there's too much risk on the experience, because you can't compare the type of experience that you get in the physical realm.
I mean, even just walking across the street, and it's funny hearing the clapping, which is going to come up in a little bit, across the street in front of our French place, which is not open, but it's open for pickup. You can get a little, glass of champagne. You're standing and you're social distance from everybody waiting for their food. It's still vastly different in experience than, it just reminds you of how important that is. Anyway, Manish, thank you so much. We are going to go from multiplex to megaplex. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring up Jeff. Jeff, you like that lead in, Jeff?
Thank you. Love the house, man. Too,
you talk about, I'm just going to go, well, tell us who you are, or tell us what Megaplex is.
Megaplex Theaters, Utah-based theater chain. We've got 15 locations, north to south in Utah, plus one location that's fairly close to Vegas. Started about 20 years ago. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary. It was sort of an accident, but the Miller family that is known for their auto dealerships in the Western U.S. and the family that owns the Utah Jazz NBA basketball team was approached by the community and said, "We've got this old school that we're going to build a new school. We'd like to do something with that real estate. Millers love going to movies." So they built a theater, and that grew into multiple theaters. And here we are 20 years later, having just the best time. And I love everything I'm hearing so far because, frankly, movies have been the ultimate mystery escape room for 125 years. The mystery escape room, the drama escape room, the comedy escape room. People come together to escape. And boy, do we all need an escape right now.
I mean, you stole my question. I had 125 years on my little paper right here. So maybe somebody shared the document. I think we actually shared it. But, but I think it's interesting what Manish was saying, because I think that he went back to the Great Depression. But to your point, this is the first time in the 125-year history that movie theaters have been closed. They've been open through the Depression. They've been open through wars. And they really provide that escape. And so what do you think, what are you seeing as kind of like, what are the next, when this phase reopening happens, how are you going to provide that next level of, how are you going to still provide that escape?
We are feeling the exact emotions that our guests are feeling. We are hearing it on social media. You hear it every day in the news. People are desperate for normal to come back. And one of the things that represents that is gathering as a group, as a community, and cheering for the hero and booing the villain and whispering as we, quietly munch on popcorn during a quiet place, because we don't want to be the one, causing the commotion. So we're desperate for that experience. And then ask anyone with kids, they're looking for a reason to get out of the house. Everyone owns a kitchen, but nobody wants to cook right now. Everyone's got a screen, but there are times when we want it big.
Right. So let's do a favor. So we talked a little bit about you mentioned popcorn, right? And let's just, Jasmine, can we just bring in the video so people can remember what the sound of popcorn popping is like? So I'm going to, share a little bit of our conversation over this. What I found was interesting was you said that you sit right next to kind of where the concession is, and that as you guys have been going through this time period, you remembered that the smell of popcorn is just so powerful, and that people love that smell of popcorn so much so. And I'm gonna kind of pause a little bit here because I think everybody gets it. So you said that you forgot how much the smell of popcorn is like, so much so that you guys decided that it wasn't just you, but it was your entire audience and everybody who's enjoyed the theater, and you guys created a program to try to bring the love of popcorn back. Talk a little bit about that.
So we were following the national trend. We held out as long as we possibly could, but it was clear that it was time to start intermission. We needed to shut down with everyone else to protect the health and safety of everyone. And so mid-March, we made the decision, kept our team in place. First time in 125 years that movie theaters are shut down. Gave us a chance to do some deep cleaning, but the building, without the crowd, without the smell of popcorn, without the noise of the popper, it just lost its heart. And so we were down for, I think, 9 days, and continually on social media and other places, people were saying, "Can we at least get our popcorn back?" We have a refillable popcorn program. People bring in their tub. We refill it for them when they go to a movie. They said, "Can we at least come get some popcorn?" And so the team got together and worked up a plan. The technology folks went great guns to get up and running. And we adapted our mobile app and our website and started drive up popcorn service. And the response was phenomenal. We literally had cars lined up around our building doing the social distancing thing, the kids with the masks and the gloves, literally passing on a tray our Megaplex popcorn through the passenger window to guests who were practically teary-eyed, receiving their popcorn and thanking us for bringing that part of normal back to their lives. I work in a building that is a movie theater. My office is upstairs. The building, having the popcorn smell return, the sound of those poppers, it got me. I was surprised because after 12 years in the business, I've become noseblind to it. You kind of forget. But after that intermission, having that smell back, having that sound back, and the response from guests has been incredible. We have been so thrilled.
And I know it's done a lot for culture, and that it's really helped you guys kind of remain excited about what you guys do and remind yourselves of kind of why you do it. I want to talk as the last question, just tell us what you guys are planning right now in terms of, I think it's really unique as a pivot, just what you guys have announced right now.
Well, so we recognize that Utah is having a different experience than a lot of places. We're much more rural and spread out than some places. We've got a good position. We've been given the clearance with our health experts to open up our buildings in a limited capacity. So what we're introducing is private family screenings. So you can bring in your immediate family, those that you're quarantining with, buy out the auditorium. We'll provide the popcorn, the drinks, and a first run movie, a classic movie. We're working with our studio partners and providing a movie experience again for guests and then we're coming back in and sanitizing everything, wiping everything down, and resetting the room completely for the next group to come in. And again, the response has been phenomenal. Our phones are ringing off the hook by introducing this.
I know. If I wasn't, so far away from Utah, as I told you, you'd have me as a customer. So, Jeff, thank you so. I know. I heard you said, and you guys are having a different experience, so maybe I'll take my shot over there. Jeff, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much, and I love what you're doing. I saw the photos with cops waiting there to get it from the windows. All the employees who were serving it look so happy. So it's just such a cultural thing, and to be able to and doing it so early and realizing that it can bring back such joy. I love it, and I just hope that people learn from it and we get more of it. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Best to all.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to bring up a man who probably needs no introduction, but I'm going to let him introduce himself. Joe, when I met you, you were carrying a rock. How heavy was that rock?
40 pounds. I've been carrying a kettlebell, God, for 4 or 5 years now, everywhere I go. And in Sparta, Greece, the company's name is Spartan. In Sparta, Greece, they gave me an ancient kettlebell. And that's what you saw. That was a stone kettlebell from years ago. And
so tell us about Spartan.
Spartan was started 20 years ago this coming Saturday. Its first 10 years was a different name. We called it Peak. We tried to help people get to their peak performance by doing hard things. You can't transform yourself. You can't transform anything without pressure. So having people go run 100 miles, 200 miles, just crazy events we put on. And then in 2010, 10 years ago, we changed the format to a military-inspired obstacle course, barbed wire, walls, ropes, fire, you name it. And we've had 7 million people come out and do this crazy stuff across 45 countries until the pandemic hit, and then we got shut down everywhere.
So it was a fascinating story because you told me you were, well, I won't take it. You were someplace and you saw one thing happen, the next thing happened, and then all of a sudden. So tell us that story.
Yeah, so we're in 45 countries and China got shut down on us. And I thought, no big deal. It's a virus that's happening in China. We'll just deal with it. And then that bled over to Japan. So we got shut down in China. We got shut down in Japan. Then that bled to Italy. We were shut down in 3 countries, but we still had 42 rolling. And then I went to Sparta. Gerard Butler, myself, Billy Zane were going to Sparta, Greece, because the torch was coming through for the Olympics. I asked my 11-year-old daughter if she wanted to come with me. I was not concerned about this virus at this point. It was only 3 countries. And she said, Dad, Sparta, she's 11 years, Sparta's too close to Italy. And that gave me pause for about a minute or two. And I said, well, I'm not going to not show up. I already told the mayor of Sparta I'll be there. And I went. And while I was there, I think 12 hours, and the United States shut down travel back. So I raced out of there. And in the 17 hours of travel from the moment the U.S. shut down through Athens, through Heathrow, and back to Boston, it became very real for me and us.
Right. I'm just going to, first episode, I didn't get you out before the clapping, so I'm just going to clap for all of us on the East Coast at least. So let me just ask, so you get back, you land from Sparta, carrying the rock. How do you change your business? Because your business literally is physical event after event after event. And it's the closest you can be, the most you can share in terms of like perspiration and all those things. So it has all the makings of like not going to, so what changes?
Yeah, I mean, we are in the business of social undistancing, probably more than the other guests you had on here. I mean, we bring together 10,000 people at a clip. And during that 17 hours of travel back, I said, okay, what do we have to do? You put together a plan. Most of the time you've got to adjust the plan 25 times before it works out. But my plan during those 17 hours were, we got to conserve whatever cash we have because revenue is going to go to zero. We've got to protect our employees. We're probably going to have to furlough a large amount of employees, which I'm embarrassed about. And then we've got to stay in touch with our customers. The moment I landed, that plan was disseminated. And I got to say, we got the greatest team in the world. Our CMO and she and the marketing team immediately pivoted to content. and we just became a content producing machine. Luckily, I'm on a farm right now. I'm hiding out in the corner here on the farm because I got kids everywhere. We're locked down with about 29 people here for the last 60 days. And I've got videographers that we just literally all drove to Vermont, locked ourselves up on the farm, and we're just producing content. I get up at 4 a.m. and we start doing live shows, and just this is our new business until the world opens up again.
And you're climbing the mountain that's right outside, building a stone house, I heard.
Well, that's a little hobby. We got a little hobby going. We're building a stone hut on top of the mountain.
Right. So, you did something else, though. I mean, okay, you furloughed. You had, and that's tough for anybody. But I think what you did after that, I mean, just tell us how you've still been able to maintain and what you've done from a cultural perspective.
Well, so we said, okay, if we stick to those three things, liquidity, employees, and customers, even though we had to furlough 75% of our staff, which was awful, we're going to touch base with them every day. We're going to do a Zoom call, literally with everybody, contractors, everybody. They're all part of the family. Thank God the government program came in place. We were able to bring a ton of people back, and hopefully we could do it again. So that was number one. Number two, everybody, no matter who they were, if they worked in finance, if they worked in HR, they all became content producers and social media experts. So the whole company was transformed during this time. And, I wish I could tell you it's perfect, but it's not. It's a battle every day. Every day I wake up, I think it's a dream. This is unbelievable. Now, we did get some good news about a week ago. Florida opened up. So we're going to have an event June 13th in Florida, which is amazing.
And when do you think operations will be back up as they were before?
Well, my original plan coming back from Greece was we'd be ready July 1. Again, that was just a plan that I created during that trip. And I think we'll be 30 to 40% back by July 1 at the rate things are going. Right.
I love it. And you got something really excited planned for the future. Can you talk about it?
Yeah, apparently you are signed up. Bonin is signed up. We've got, I think it's May 30th. We've got a virtual Spartan race, which is going to be the largest virtual race humankind has ever seen. We'll have millions of people signed up for this, and you apparently are leading the pack.
I wouldn't have it any other way. I've been training. I've been, sleeping every day and getting up late, just trying to get my rest in first, and then I'm going to go into more of a hard
rest. And you've done a lot of pasta dinners to carb load. It's good.
Carb loading. It's a step training that I'm doing. No, I think when you told me, I stepped back and I thought to myself, first of all, the ingenuity that requires, the thinking, and just then kind of putting it all together to make it all work, because people are not going to be together. So it's the honor system on top of all of that. I mean, I think it's genius. And again, I feel like this whole show I've been plugging, but hey, if I was a brand, I'd be into something like this. But I also think that what a way to bring kind of that connectivity back and allow people who want to be a part of kind of pushing themselves with each other, have that moment to do it. And to the point that you said, do it on a scale that the world has never seen before, almost as a message, like we still got this. So I'm excited, man.
I like that sentence. We still got this. That's going to be the tagline of this race. Well, I'm making shirts. It's going to say Bonin, we still got this.
Right. I don't get paid the big bucks for no reason. But hey, Joe, any last word? Because you're always an inspirational person.
Yeah, I would say to everybody listening, everybody watching, the trick to this whole thing, because this is what we do at Spartan. We've been training for this for 20 years. The trick to this whole thing is to set some standards for yourself. Those standards you have to hold every single day. Don't just stop showering. Don't start waking up late. Don't be social distance from your refrigerator. You've got to do things the way you used to do them. Just because we're at home, just because we're not going to work, doesn't mean we stop taking care of ourselves.
Right. Hey, Joe, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. And I will see you late May on the 30th, and I'll be ready.
You better be ready.
All right. All right, everybody. Thank you again. What a wonderful episode. I think what we take away from here more than anything is kind of still the same piece that we talked about at the top, which is really human ingenuity and imagination, and the creativity of these industries are going to transform the industry probably even more than the situation that we have in front of us, because it's allowed people to take a step back and say, what can I do better? What can I do different? And how do I come out of this stronger? And I think we're going to see a lot from that. And I'm just excited to see not just the thought leaders that we had on the show today, what they do, but more importantly, what the total industry does. And hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it was inspirational. Hopefully there were some good tips that you take away that help you on your journey to rethink what you're doing in entertainment and events. And more importantly, hopefully I see you next week here, same time, where we're covering the media industry. And we have some great guests, including the ad council, who's going to talk about the historic campaign that I'm sure all of you know about. Again, thank you to SAP, Quantum Metrics, and more important, thank you to every single one of you watching and listening. I will respond to your comments right now, and I am out. Thank you.